Okay, so we're deep diving it today, right?
We are.
Oh God, we're going to talk about what?
Home inspections.
Purple smoke
Yeah.
coming out of my head already.
Super fun.
Oh, they're a blast.
Okay, so I'm just going to tee you up
Oh,
on questions here.
great.
Okay, so a home inspection in the state of Texas, we don't have an inspection clause.
No, it's
So we have option periods, and that's when we suggest people get their home inspections. But when can a buyer get a home inspection?
well, anytime.
Okay.
But, and that's where we get into who told you it had to be within the 10 days? Because I get so much pushback from the other agent going, it's not option.
Right.
Well, option and home inspection are two different things. Home
Right.
inspections are not a condition of contract here.
Correct. And an option period
It's
has
for what?
the unrestricted right to back out of the
Does that
contract.
mean if I decide I don't like pink carpet anymore?
Oh, correct.
Do I have to tell them why?
Nope.
Well, there you go.
Nothing. It's one little box that says that.
Yeah.
Now, why do we suggest doing it within the option period if you can?
Easier to negotiate repairs.
Absolutely.
But, and I think the hardest thing that I have to get across to the buyers is this isn't for the cracked wall plate. This, I sold my own home and they actually asked me to go to Home Depot and replace the outside cover because it had a crack in it.
Right.
77 cents.
Right.
So that's not what it's for.
Right.
I always use it for the big stuff, the mechanicals, the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the hot water heater, the air conditioner.
Right.
And I stop there.
Right. Right. And that's kind of what we try to tell our buyers when we go through is like, look, we're seeing the house as it is right now.
Yep.
And if you choose to offer on the house, then you like it as it is right now. There's going to be so many things wrong with the house. That's the inspector's job. If it came back clean, like what's the purpose of having one, right? The inspector needs to deep dive, find everything. But what we always tell our clients is this is so you know what you're buying. If we find any major ticket items, safety hazards,
yes,
those are the things we try to negotiate with.
Kind of like the one I had that the cabinet door was crooked and they said, oh, they'll fix that on inspection, right? No, the house was listed this way.
Right.
What you see is what you get. We're looking for the underlying.
Right. Pick and choose your battles, essentially, is what we're looking at.
100%. 100%. Now I have the tee-up question for you.
Let's go for it.
What's a VA inspector?
It's not an inspector at all. Like, I wish there was a definition to this, especially as much VA.
Oh my gosh. I would love it if they would send someone out.
Oh, yes. Would it save some money? It would save some time. But no, the VA inspector is actually a VA appraiser.
Yes.
And they have their own sets of guidelines to say that house is eligible for VA financing. And we can't get firm guidelines from anybody when we've tried to ask, but generally there's just kind of a general pool of things. The house can't have major foundation, cracked windows, chipping paint, rotted wood. Needs to be in overall good shape.
Roof needs to be insurable.
Roof has to be insurable. And those are the things the appraiser is looking for. Yes. Now, we've had some throw it in and go, hey, the garbage disposal is making a loud noise. Why are you checking the garbage disposal? But okay.
Did you have lunch?
Right? So some odd things, but overall, they're just looking for an overall good condition of the house and that it's ready for our veteran buyers.
Absolutely. Do you run into any problems if that buyer, let's say they don't have the money up front, because an inspection's expensive. It's $400 to $500 and they have to wait a couple weeks and they're out of option. Have you run into any issues once they come back with repairs?
When they're out of option?
Uh-huh.
Honestly, no. Like the sellers all have been pretty decent about that. I mean, obviously there's a little more pushback because, they can get away with things on that and they don't have to, but I really haven't run into too many issues with it. What I do suggest in like that scenario is we have a grouping of inspectors here that will do it within your option period and you can escrow that inspection fee. they'll charge like an additional $40 to $50 and let you pay it at closing. But if you can get enough closing concessions, sometimes you can even get that
Sometimes
inspection
that
covered
can
in
be
there.
covered, but if they back out, they've got to pay that
They've got to pay it,
inspector.
period. Yeah.
And it is going to have that added fee on it.
Correct.
It's not just going to disappear
Right.
because they've decided to go ahead and pay it. Um,
It is the risk. Have you had any issues getting repairs after being out of option?
yes and no.
Okay.
They'll do roofs and things like that
Well,
because
yeah.
they can do it on their insurance.
Well, they're going to have to sell it,
It's
period.
got to be. It says it.
Right.
Property has to be insurable. But when it comes to other stuff like anti-tip devices or stuff,
Yeah,
that
so
people
stupid.
ask for, they tend not to.
Right.
And I think it's a shame because that's at the guidance of their realtor.
Right.
And I think what, as realtors, our duty is, if we're representing the seller, is to let them know they don't have to do this during men.
Right.
Our duty to the buyer is they don't have to do this ever.
Right.
Even if a VA appraiser comes in and says it needs all this,
The
seller doesn't have to do it.
does not have to do it.
And that has nothing to do with option. That's just point blank.
Right. Those are negotiable.
They are not required. It
Right.
used to be required the seller pay for the termite inspection.
Mhm.
No longer required.
Right.
So
Right.
things change.
Things change, and I think it just still comes down to being ethical and being part of the solution instead of part of the
Part of the
problem.
problem.
You just had one too where your buyer clients could not afford an inspection,
Right.
like period.
They
Just
couldn't.
it wasn't
They
going to be
couldn't.
on the
It
back
was not
end,
gonna
on the
happen.
front end, nothing.
Not going to happen.
And thankfully, it was an agent-owned home that you were selling.
Yep.
The agent was representing himself, and we've had great dealings with that agent
Oh, 100%.
throughout the years. But you let them know, hey,
Hey,
they cannot afford this.
they are
but-
not doing it. They cannot afford
but-
it. But I know your air doesn't work, and I know these lights don't work.
Right. We discovered these problems when we
Mhm.
wrote the offer. We knew. You put them in the offer,
did
the
put them
original
in the
offer, and he
offer.
said, take them out. We'll address them during option. Okay, took them out.
All right.
But here we were again.
Here we were.
Now you had a great dealing though.
Oh, he fixed it.
Because he
Yeah.
wanted to make sure he handed them over a good
Yes.
property
Yes.
and ready to go. And
Yes.
he needed more work than he thought.
He did. He did.
so,
Yeah.
but ethically, he came through. They were able to get the repairs, and they left their home.
And everybody got to move on with life. They
Right.
got to move in. He got to move away.
Right,
So,
right. Which I'm sad he moved away.
It was sad. I liked him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it just.
So I always tell people when we get into the option period, if we get an option period, so like option periods are now, again, I hate to continue to refer to COVID, but those were not a thing for about 2 years. We didn't have option
No,
periods or repairs.
You're buying it or you're not.
It is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
But now that we are able to obtain some option periods and some negotiations and things like that, I tell people, in my telemarketer voice, as I tell them to listen to me.
That
'Cause-
comes from your son.
oh my gosh! Well, it's like, I know he said you're
your
professional,
professional voice.
right? So I give the warning, like, hey, guess what? Okay, so don't pay attention to me right now. I need you to pay attention to what I'm saying, but it's going to be like
Yes.
I'm reading off a teleprompter because we say it so often. But the first 10 days of a contract for a buyer on the buyer side is miserable. Their lender's hitting them. We need them to set up their inspection. We've got to negotiate repairs, appraisals,
They're paying
their
for their
loan.
appraisal. They're paying for their inspector. They're
Yeah.
paying their earnest. They're paying their option. They're a good $2,000 in
Just to play the game.
just to play the game.
Yeah.
Just to play the game.
And now the majority of that can come back to them. But
Yes.
the option
Yes.
period and inspection, they're risking $600-700 that they'll never see again if it doesn't work out.
Right.
Again, another reason to have an agent on your side to guide you
Mhm.
through that
Mhm.
and have realistic expectations about things that can be fixed
Oh,
and
absolutely.
can't be fixed.
Absolutely.
And then we get past that, and the client gets to go a little bit on cruise control while we start hammering things on the back end.
Well, no, they think we're done.
Yeah. Right? It's like, no, you did your part of the
You
contract.
did your part of the contract.
So we got you there. Now we're going to get you through these negotiations, and now we are working again. and then at the end, and then we have
Mhm,
appraisals. And like you said, if we get appraisal repairs, they are negotiable.
they're
I
negotiable.
would say 9 times out of 10, I get sellers
I
to
don't
do
have any
them.
kickback on those too
No,
often. Every now and again.
yeah, it just depends on how crappy the deal's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, but
It's the truth.
by the time we get to that, a seller wants to sell their house, and so it's not
Well,
really
yeah, because they're a
worth.
week before closing at that
Right.
point, and what are they going to do? Say, I'm going to dig my feet in, and I'm
Right.
going to go back on the market.
But we did have that.
We did have it.
Like what, a month ago? 2 months
Yeah,
ago?
yes.
The appraisal came in low.
Yeah.
And so when we get a low appraisal, we have to renegotiate terms of the contract. They wouldn't meet our buyer's terms, and the buyer wouldn't meet the seller's terms. And so the contract terminated.
Contract terminated. Now they're back on the market at the lower price.
At the reduced price they refused to go to. So, like, and with that, they're back on the market at the reduced price. They put their home on hold for the past month and a half, trying to figure out what they were going to do. Our people went under contract on their house. They just put their house back on the market, and we close next week on the new house.
Right.
When I'm like, oh, it could have been your house.
It could have been your house.
You could have just been done
Could have been
with
done.
it. But hindsight's 20/20 for a lot of people. So what do you do? But
Yeah,
home inspections, how important do you think they are?
I think they're critical.
Yeah,
I think they're critical.
if you're able to get them.
If you're able to get them, they're critical. And people will go, well, it looks like a nice house. Well, that nice house can have a broken slab.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That nice house can have plumbing clogged. That
Right.
nice house can have an air conditioner you have to go out and push the red button on
Well,
every time,
yeah.
which is absolute.
the house
What?
on cobblestone, we had 33 attic rafters that had pulled loose.
33 attic rafters. So
There's things that you can't see,
things you can't see.
and things a VA appraiser isn't going to look at if you have a VA loan.
No, they're not
So,
crawling up in the attic.
no.
Some do.
Well, it
You know,
just depends on.
there's some. But I'm not, I mean, I appreciate them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go get it. The more thorough you are, the better.
Right.
But that is a misconception. There is no such thing as a VA appraiser, or not appraiser, inspector.
Right. And then,
And-
okay, so let's dive into this because I get this a lot too. So now we have inspectors going, oh, it has cast iron piping. Well, yeah, it was built in the 70s. And when I have done my research in this town, honestly, 85% of the
Mhm.
construction in this home was built between the 1960s
There is
and
nothing we can do about that.
80s, right? And they're slab properties. They
Mhm.
do have cast iron piping. Absolutely. Will those eventually fail? Yep.
Someday.
Someday.
They
And
may or they may not. You never
so
know.
we have some inspectors that say, hey, you need to have this whole thing scoped, or you need to have hydrostatic testing. And the hydrostatic testing is, and I don't think a lot of people understand what it
Mass
is.
pressure going through your lines.
Correct. So they plug every single drain in the house,
Mhm.
and they fill the sinks, fill the bathtubs, fill the washers, fill everything they can, and wait to see if there's a leak. Wait to see if something's gone down. And if something's gone down, then that indicates a leak. There's also a test where they shoot water pressure
yeah.
through, and that can blow your
That
pipes
can blow your
out.
pipes.
So you can't. Thankfully, the state of Texas put something in there that you have
Seller
to have
has
the
to
seller
give permission to have it hydrostatically tested
because if it blows, it's the
Ooh.
seller's responsibility on the
to
insurance
fix it.
So we run into it a lot, and I get buyers that are going, well, should I have this looked at? And okay, did we have any slow drains? Did we have any indication there's plumbing issues?
Yeah.
And obviously that's a choice. And I have a lot of them that choose to do a camera scope,
Mhm.
and things are fine. But you can't just do it,
Mm-mm.
right? And I do suggest if you are going to do a scope, this is just my personal suggestion, do it with your inspector. Have the inspector do it, because when you call out a plumbing company and then you've got an additional fee to
fee
that.
if the inspector will do it. Some
Right,
will,
there's
some won't.
Yeah, there's two in
Um,
town that will
Two in
do
town
it.
that will, but it wasn't that long ago that the buyer expected the seller to pay for their scope.
Yes, that was mine.
No.
Of course, it was my client.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I expected them to pay for the scope, and if it was cast iron, I said it is cast iron. There's
It is
nothing to
cast
argue
iron.
there.
I'm not even going to argue it.
Then they want the whole plumbing lined. That's
Relined, yeah.
not going to happen. The
there-
plumbing is functioning. It's working.
There's 30 grand.
Right. And okay, so this goes into that too. I tell everybody somebody's getting hit with the repairs on ages of homes, right? So everybody, as you own a home, there's different maintenance items you're going to have to do. And as they age, there's going to be more and more, here we go, on things that will need replaced or haven't
Right.
been replaced. My personal home, what did it take? A year?
Mm-hmm.
So I had 4
4 slab leaks.
slab leaks. I got hit with it.
And I've had one, but I did call a plumber, and they went up through the attic with the pipe.
Yeah.
They said, we're not even putting it back in there.
Don't worry about it.
Let's
Reroute through the attic.
Reroute through the attic.
Yep.
And a lot of builders are doing that now.
Yes, it's just smarter.
It's in the attic.
It's smarter.
It's
Like, I
smarter.
mean, you don't want water coming through your ceiling, but it's better than being underground and you can't see it.
Right.
So I've had slab leaks. My hot water heater replaced, my central heat and air replaced. But I'm cheap. I bought my house cheap. I knew these were all items that were going to come
Eventually, I got to do it.
up for maintenance.
It's part of home ownership.
And I always tell
You
people,
remember the lady that called you a year after owning the home and said, my AC went out. What do I do?
fix it.
Fix it.
I mean, and I don't want to sound cold or callous, but I was like,
Oh,
I'm not the
well,
landlord.
hold on.
And I said, well, hold on, let's
wasn't
look
a-
and see. Is your home
she wasn't the
warranty?
landlord. She bought it, but her
Right.
warranty had run out.
Right. And then she blamed me for her warranty running out. I said, you had a 1-year home warranty. I did tell you it was about to run out.
You know, and,
And
the,
so did
and
the
the
warranty
warranty
company.
companies are so good about
They're
that.
so good
Yeah.
to say renew if you're going to renew. And if not, nope, I never received an email. I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I gave her some suggestions of air people. And then she asked me where she should send the bill. I said, I was so confused.
You need to pay it.
Oh, I was so confused with that one. And I felt bad because I was like, did I misstep something that I
No.
didn't communicate?
There can be a lot of costs down the line owning a home. It's just called
Yes.
home maintenance.
Yes.
And if you know, still at the end of the day, you're building equity.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
your savings account is your home.
Well, okay, so
So-
that house we closed on today, wallpaper galore, 1 owner home.
Oh, is
Right.
that our good house?
It was a good house. And they love it so much. They
So
said
it's
they
my
loved
car
it.
salesman house.
Yes.
I did. Sounded just like a car salesman. I go, 1 owner.
Right. And they had it inspected, and there were little tiddlywink things, and there was some roof repair. They got the repair, completed it. $1,800 the seller paid. But talking to the listing agent, I went to go drop off some money to her after the closing. She was like, I'm just so surprised it went so fast. It was only her second deal since she's been in the business. She goes, that
Oh.
wallpaper was hideous. And I go, oh no. I said, thankfully you had seasoned agents, because we were able to go in and say, hey, when somebody maintains their property like this is a good find.
Oh,
An
yeah.
original owner. So what I was telling her, I said, this is how we explain things to our clients. Is when we come across homes like this, is the AC's been replaced. It was replaced with a higher quality unit. The water heater's been
Maintenance.
replaced. It's been replaced with a higher quality water heater rather than new construction. New construction is fantastic and
Mhm.
everything is brand new, but it really is the builder's job to get out of that as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
And we have good builders. This is not a knock on builders. They do use quality
They
products.
do use quality products, but you're not getting geotherm in your house.
Right, right. And you're not getting the 10-year warranty AC unit, you're getting the 5-year.
Right, which is fine.
Is-
I had my 5-year for 10 years.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
they're great.
And when I upgraded mine, I went mid-level.
Yeah.
But when we have pre-owned homes like that and they've done those items,
Mhm.
generally they're upgraded
They're mindful.
in what
and-
they're going long haul
Yeah.
on things. And so she's like, I never thought of that. And that's exactly how we sold it was, look, this house has been maintained. You can change wallpaper.
Oh, yeah.
You can change paint, you can change whatever, but you cannot change the
Can't
structure
change
of
those
this house.
draperies. Those draperies were fantastic.
They were terrible.
No, they were fantastic. Had a little string, and
Yeah.
you could tell they'd been to the dry cleaner and pressed. That's how those were maintained.
So bad. Oh my gosh.
It was
but-
great.
It is good. It was a good house. But anyway, on inspection money, it's not credited anywhere in the contract. It's not money you get back. It doesn't come
Nope,
credited
this
to
isn't
you.
your expense.
Your expense, and for you to know what you're
And
getting.
if you choose
into.
not to do it, I'm going to cringe.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to explain why I feel it's necessary, or not necessary, why I feel it's important.
Right.
And the choice is up to you.
Right.
The choice is always up to you.
And I was going to try to end this, but it makes me go through all the stories, and we have 20 years worth of stories.
Oh my Lord, that's
But
an understatement.
do not have, and this is just, no, this is every realtor's opinion. Do not have your friend's brother's uncle come look through the house, because
if I have it listed, they're not allowed to go in because they are not licensed, bonded, insured, and they are legally,
right,
they are not allowed to go in and climb up that attic.
right.
Remember the showing we had where the guy tried to go down the crawl space?
Yes.
Dad?
Yes.
And then he goes, there's a gas line that goes under that patio. Well, right.
Right.
For 50 years now.
Right. And I've had it to where I've had to sit because they had their friends come look, because one friend knew a lot of electrical, but he wasn't licensed.
Right.
One friend knew a lot of plumbing, but he wasn't licensed. The other one could look at the roof and tell if it was bad or not. And I had to sit there because they can't be in the house by themselves. There's a liability there.
Yep.
And the seller's agent loved it. She said, "Oh,
good.
Good for you.
Sure.
Enjoy. Yes, you guys absolutely." And we had no repairs. None.
Right.
Now, we represented those people when we sold it. And this was 7 years down the road, but we sold that property. And they were like, "Why are there so many problems?" Because we didn't have it inspected.
Didn't get an inspection. You know, another thing too, real quick, and I'll end it. Seller, get an inspection, pre-listing inspection.
You know, it's so nice to have.
I love them. And then they've got time to address it. It's not in that 10-day time frame.
Would you even suggest it during a listing presentation if the seller was willing to do it before you came up with a listing date? You know, let's go ahead and have it inspected so we can address these before we put it on the market.
Inspection done on it. They're what, $75?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an 8-touch, right? An 8-point.
Yeah, so what are we doing? Get the inspection. I mean, if you want to go to a full inspection, absolutely. It's $500 could save you $10,000 at the end of the day.
Right.
So.
And the inspectors we know, when they do once you do address those repairs, then they'll come out and reinspect it for free and correct the report.
Reinspect it.
So it's a little bit of
I'm thinking home warranty, $75.
Yeah, the home.
Get that too.
The seller coverage.
Go ahead and get your seller coverage. Yeah. Pre-listing is a little bit cheaper, and it is an 8-point.
Yeah.
But, or you can just get the whole one. I would recommend just go ahead and do the whole thing.
And then, this is going to sound, I don't know how it'll sound, but I'm going to say it anyway. Once you have that inspection with the buyer and once a repair amendment is created on our contracts, it says by a licensed professional or somebody within that trade. So those repairs can cost you a lot more. So if you're going to have a deal break over
the ceiling fan broke.
The ceiling fan.
Let's use that. Let's just use that and stay there. The ceiling fan broke. It's on a repair amendment. Suddenly, a licensed electrician has to come do that ceiling fan instead of you.
Right.
So
you or somebody you know or whoever has to come.
My $80 ceiling fan just went to $380.
Right.
Because I had to have a licensed electrician come out.
Right.
So
there's going to be little things, or the cracked plates, you know, like that.
77 cents.
77 cents. If you had to have a handyman come out, that's going to be at least $50
and you can't even use a handyman.
You can. It's in there.
Is it now?
Yeah, within the trade.
Within the
experienced trade.
Well, it's still questionable.
But you have to also provide invoices for these repairs.
So, paid invoices, not just invoices.
So if you have that
paid
one up to say, hey, we've had an inspection and you know you've addressed it. And one last thing. An inspection is only good
For
For
the
the-
day of the inspection. It is not for the life of the home.
Right. And things go bad every day, all kinds of different things. So
Every
even if
day.
you did get it pre-inspected before you listed it, a buyer can come in, another inspector is going to find something else. But you at least have the general knowledge and you can tackle things before you put it on the
Mhm.
market.
Mhm.
And that also helps buyers that can't afford inspections sometimes that, hey, this has been done. We're diligent. We're trying to sell you a good property.
Mhm.
And it just presents nicely.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
Well, that's all I got. It's Friday.
it is Friday. I am ready.
Yeah.
I am ready. So, all right, next week, we'll visit something.
We'll
We'll come up
figure-
with
we'll
something between now
figure
and
it
then.
out. We'll
Something will
figure it
happen.
out. Have a good Friday.
Bye.